Hi guys, it's me, Katrina Maria. Not here with the Oracle Scope today or anything else. I'm here to kind of let everybody know what happened to me and how I was abruptly pulled off the internet about a year ago, and basically pulled off from life in general about a year ago. I am an MK Ultra Monarch Program survivor. I come from a intergenerational family of ritual abuse. It goes back many generations in my family, actually, as I found out. Um, and for some reason, I have been chosen to be the scapegoat of the family, the one that they have put all of their anger on and their jealousy and rage. And I basically, they've been targeting me for about 6 years. I didn't quite know it was them. About halfway through the targeting, I had realized that it was three female family members and that they had something to do with them or with the whole thing. And it was quite troubling because I actually, was close to them. And yeah, for some reason, I started to remember things about 7 or 8 years ago. And I did a lot of studying in activism for MK Ultra Monarch programming, things of that nature, conspiracy theories, stuff like that. And, they never said anything about it. And I worked with people to deprogram. A lot of people knew of me on Facebook, Princess Katrina Maria, Zombie Killer, things like that. That's kind of what I was known for. I was known for, like, crazy, dirty jokes and truth. And kind of mixing it all into a bizarre, thing. So, I don't know. So basically they're thing with it is my story is very long, and there's a lot of layers to the story, and it's hard to. I'm just going to do an introduction video just to let you guys know I am a targeted individual, and actually right now I'm in a lot of danger. They basically, I found a way around the gang stalking and the targeting. I am a psychic, and I do, I've done readings for 20 years in Chicago, and I had gotten out of a bad relationship, which was set up as part of the ritual abuse and the other stuff, and other atrocities that they, did behind my back that now I know everything about, and now they're really, amping up their crazy. So, and keeping me super controlled, so I won't tell what they did. But I never planned on telling what they did. I just moved and wanted to have a normal life, and I figured if I just, go my way, they'll go their way. Well, no. No, never. It never really works that way. I don't know. This is hard. This video is hard to do for me. Oh, okay. So a year ago, they basically hired some hackers to destroy my entire business and destroy all of my equipment, hack everything, my website, my YouTube page, my client list, my PayPal. They were stealing money from my clients. They put something called an SQL injection on my website, where they pretty much redirected any kind of bookings, because I had an automatic booking site, linked to my PayPal and on my website, so they could just go on and book their appointments as needed. And they basically redirected everything where I wasn't getting any kind of information, and stealing money. So February 2015, all of a sudden my business completely slowed down. And I noticed that I wasn't getting emails or payments or anything, and I thought maybe it was just, a life cycle of things being slow. No big deal. Then by March, I knew that something was kind of wrong, and Yeah, and by April, I wondered if I needed to get a job. By normally when I would put out videos at the beginning of the month, I'd have an influx of people in addition to my regulars, and there was no influx. And all of a sudden, I was getting threats on Facebook when I had Facebook open, where there was young punks saying that I should be careful not to go near Homan Square because I'm from Chicago. And it's like a CIA black site where I guess the Chicago police have been disappearing people and keeping them detained and like locked up, and I was like, what the hell? Like, it didn't even make sense. I'm like, I don't even leave the house, so good luck getting me at Home and Square, you know, unless I'm like having a huge hankering for like Puerto Rican food and, you know, Humboldt Park, and I could just make it. Yeah. So it's not that serious. But what I didn't realize is basically the Home and Square was pretty much a precursor for what they were really planning behind the scenes, which was to have me set up with the local Cook County Sheriff on prostitution charges. Now, I hadn't been on a date in 3.5 years, and I had been celibate for 3.5 years and didn't really do anything with anybody, wasn't looking. And I thought that, you know, how could somebody do that? Well, if they know your beta programming codes, they can invite gentlemen over in the night and you have no idea. And they can pretty much, what I had found out is that they basically hooked up, this all happened before I even knew anything was going on, hooked up with some of the dirty police officers. They had sold me to a gang of Polish and Hispanic human traffickers in the area. They're like a gang, and the police pretty much participate and protect them. And yeah, so the whole thing was orchestrated. And I did have weird things that would occur in the night, where I would wake up at 3:30 in the morning and the dogs were barking and I couldn't figure out, you know, what was happening. I tend to mop my floors at night before I go to bed, and I have 2 puppies, and, you know, if they had an accident on the floor, you know, it would have been cleaned up or whatever. I would wake up in the morning and there would be dog poop on the floor or dog pee on the floor, or things would be moved that. And I was just kind of like, because I'm not a paranoid person, like my crazy family tends to, you know, say that I am, because if I was paranoid, I would be much more troubled by this. And I figured, okay, well, I sleep with the door shut. How in the hell did they get out? And I didn't think much of it. Then eventually I started to wake up with bruises on my body. And I had a perfect handprint bruise right here, and also on this one, that was, you know, pretty troubling. And I found it to be kind of weird. I'd wake up with my back hurting, body aching, you know, and honestly, I thought it was demonic attacks, because I'm a spiritual advisor. And my family had pretty much played on that for so many years that I would think it was a demonic attack, or, you know, a spirit came and, you know, beat me during the night, or, you know, or something. And no, it never actually was. It was them bringing men into the house, and they had Stanley security set up. They had whole new management that was in on it. It's basically part of a cult of some sort. Now that I've moved away across the country to rural Maine, there's no drinking establishments within 30 miles. There's no cell phone towers, and targeted individuals. I get hit with the EMF weapons. And when I was in Chicago, I was practically dying. Jaundiced eyes, yellow, sick every day. With no cell phone towers here, there's been an immense amount of relief. Immense, like crazy. So, so there must be something with the cell phone towers that they're shooting off of us or doing. I don't know. But I don't feel nearly as sick. I still get hit with whatever weapons that they're, you know, using manually, but not at all like it was there. So the cell phone towers, being away from cell phone towers, will provide a lot of relief. So I don't know, I found that out on accident. So I moved here, 500 people, basically rural, nothing going on. But yeah, not near military bases, because you'll find that wherever there's a military base, they tend to have the gang stalking set up right in that area. And so I looked, Maine had like no military bases. They actually have a law against EMF weapons. I was like, okay, I think I found it. I found a house for like $5,000. It needed, you know, to be, you know, fixed up, the flooring fixed and the subflooring fixed, and, you know, some other things. But when I work, I make $3,000 to $5,000 a month. So I'm like, well, you know, they can't hack me here. Well, that's all wrong. So they had a month to plan during my closing, and basically because everything was taken over, they knew where I was moving to, and there's none of those, you know, drinking establishments, nothing, but there is a big old free Masonic hall. And there's about 80% of the town is involved in it. So I basically moved to hell. So they had contacted them, and I had the first 10 days I was here, I had like the most remedial kind of gang stalkery kind of things, like there's no traffic, like, and I'm in the main part of town right now, and like someone would just sit at like the stop sign with one headlight on for like 45 minutes at night and just sit there, and I'm looking out the window and I'm like, okay, well, whatever, you know. I didn't think much of it. When I stayed in my house, the very first night, someone had come in and left a big stick from the outside in the middle of the floor. Yeah. There was just a lot of weird things that had occurred. I actually found a place here in town that, because my house was too cold, and apparently, because it was a foreclosure, I didn't know that the heating system wasn't really up to snuff. And, yeah, so someone from town, after 3 days, because they had come to turn my water on, but then we found out that there was an issue with the pipes, and we had to wait for it to heat up. So I ended up just coming here to stay. Where the hell am I going with all this? So basically, yeah. But I've gone back to the house a few times to, you know, have someone come look at what needs to be done. And every time that I've gone in, the bathroom light downstairs has been on. And when I left, I had shut everything down, unplugged everything, went through every room, made sure everything was shut down. And that was kind of strange for me, and I was kind of nervous that, you know, maybe the gang stalkers were trying to squat in my house, you know, because they're basically pretty scummy. So, but whatever, it had mold in it, so they'll just die anyway. So they're more than welcome to stay there, you know. Stay there all day and night, I don't care. Breathe it in. I don't know. So basically I got here, there was a black box on the utility pole outside of my house, and I didn't really pay attention to what the black box was. Just was kind of looking, you know, looking at everything. You know, when you're new in a place, you're new at your house, you kind of, you know, look. Well, I had gotten a cell phone from Walmart, a little straight talk, you know, cell phone that I was going to restart my business on since everything else I owned was completely hacked. The cell phone immediately took over, and they, and I was like, oh, come on. So I checked the root system, and the root system is where they go to ruin your phone and have everything redirected back to them. So I go next door to my new neighbor, and I ask if I could use their phone to activate the phone that I had. Well, of course, I get the, you know, Eastern European hacker human trafficking crew. And they're like, oh, hello, this is Dimitri. How can I help? I'm like, son of a bitch. Now I hear their voice. I mean, it's like really? So then I'm like, I need to activate this phone. I said, have you smuggled any children into the country or out of the country today? Or, you know, are you just doing this in between, you know, kidnappings? Or, and they laugh. They think it's funny. And I'm like, and they're like, what's your security code going to be? Sit your butt down. What's your security? That's Spartacus. What's your security code going to be? And they're asking, and I'm like, I go, you don't even work there. I said, why don't you guys just leave me alone? The fuck? So basically, they had my neighbors' phones taken over. They were just ready to, you know, fuck everything up for me and not let me work. The whole thing was a nightmare. It was just basically a ploy to get me to come back to Chicago. And honestly, I would rather chew on glass than go back to Chicago or anywhere else where I'm going to be ritualistically abused every fucking night. And then gaslit and told that it's not happening. Obviously, there was a reason why, with the control and the isolation, and me not having a telephone number for any of my friends to contact me, everything that I would, you know, complain about that was happening in my house was my perception. It's not happening, it's your perception. I'm like, what are you talking about? My perception. I have crazy shit going on. I mean, like, it was like every fucking day it was something. Every day. It was like I had a mouse infestation, and I never had mice or rats running in my yard. I'm like, I don't even have rats. I never even seen a rat where I lived. Turns out that they were putting food underneath my trailer. And it was only at the back of the house where the bedroom was. And I keep a really clean house. I don't eat in the bedroom. My kitchen is at the very front of the house. So if there was going to be a rodent problem, it would go to the front of the house, not to the back. You know, it doesn't even make sense. And it was warm out. It was like April. And there was nothing all winter. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, let's chill here because it's, you know, it doesn't even make sense. Nothing makes sense. So, at all. Nothing. It was just, I'll get into more detail about the series of basically what had happened. But the Cliff Note version is they hacked $6,000 in equipment. Brand new MacBook Pro was like $2,500. My new iPhone, new iPad. I had my whole business Mac'd out because I heard Mac was a sapist, and had gotten all that. Then they decided to anything in the house with Wi-Fi attached, like my Blu-ray, hacked. My new front loader washer and dryers, hacked. The new oven, because the appliances were like older, didn't work when I moved in, and I remodeled the whole place. All of a sudden it was 656 all the time on the clock. And I know if they could, they would make it 666 just to be like, we're so evil. You know, and I'd be like, actually I wouldn't. But they had destroyed all my YouTube videos. They destroyed my website. Anything that, like, proved, you know, who I was. Because at the time I didn't really realize what they were doing. But they were trying to get rid of anything that would prove that I'm not some kind of wild hooker. And honestly, you would think that, like, if I was some wild hooker, I would have, like, a lot of money. I'd have my crown molding done in my house. You know, I'd have some guys to help me do it. Obviously, if I'm a crazy hooker. Yeah, I'd probably be able to pay my rent, my bills on time. You know, I mean, that would only make sense. Sorry, my nose is running. You know, I mean, well, no. So, they were trying to basically ambush me because I'd have no idea what they were doing. And the problem with it is pretty much what's done in the dark has come to the light. And I changed years ago. after the first couple terror campaigns that they pulled on me, I started to look at my life, and I'm like, well, why am I in all this dysfunction? Because I don't drink, smoke, do drugs. I'm not promiscuous. I was usually at home with my stepkids, kept to myself, didn't do anything. And I'm like, why am I picking, or why do I always end up in these fucking sleeping with the enemy scenarios every year of my life? I'm like, it just did not make sense. And then I learned about ritual abuse. And as I look back on my life, it begins in every April. And about June, July, it hits like the crescendo from hell. Like where I'm like, not anymore, but I used to, you know, before I knew what was going on, I used to be all panicky and upset, and like everything was falling apart and everybody was turning on me, and, you know, and it was just people that the cult sent in my life, either through my business, or, you know, usually through my business. They will call to get, you know, readings, or they will call, and, you know, the town that I had moved to in Wisconsin was full of these cult members. So basically, you know, I met people through other people, and they're all connected. And what they do when they run a terror campaign on you, it's completely orchestrated that person A, B, and C will turn on you during that time. And then person D will be, it's like good cop, bad cop, will stick up for you and help you and be there, you know, your witness and everything. And then the next terror campaign, they'll have that person turn on you who was your witness the whole time, and then you don't have a witness, and then whoever else they've added will turn on you, and then like your sister will turn, and your family will turn, and you're like, what the fuck? And you've never had a bad word with any of these people, not to warrant this kind of shit. You haven't like done anything to them. Hell, I barely even came around. I kind of kept to myself, and once I realized that the 3 wackadoodle women in my family were so fucking crazy, I just kind of kept away, you know, because I'm not the type to sit there and poke crazy all the time. I would just stick up for myself. So I don't know, but they basically they had all kinds of fucking human traffickers calling my business, trying to lure me away to other countries, and trying to be like a boyfriend, and trying to get me to travel, and they always wanted me to travel. And I would pay attention to the satanic calendar, and it was always July, the grand climax. And I'm like, you know I'm a ritual abuse survivor, so I'm like real careful during those periods of time, because I know that they, you know, knock us out. So, which is part of what the terror campaign is getting that, you know, adrenochrome going, and you know, you have to basically be terrorized, you know, so you're you know, good meat to eat. So that I never really got that terrorized once I realized what they were doing, and then they would get mad. So, yeah. So basically for years they've been activating my beta programming and telling people that I'm some, you know, within communities where I live, that I'm some wild gangbang queen, which might be the beta program, you know, person, you know, that they've created within me, but that's not me. And then there's prostitution rumors that follow me, and, you know, all kinds of stuff. And then it wasn't until this particular campaign that they ran starting last year that I realized why there were all those weird prostitution rumors, and why, like, it didn't make sense. I'm like, I don't even go to the nightclub. I might go to Sam's Club, but not a nightclub. And then I realized basically certain things that were a mystery to me, because when you are a mind control survivor, there's so much of your life, and you're just trying to figure out who you are, you know, and you research, and you talk to anybody. I did, at least. I mean, I didn't really hide from talking. I mean, I would talk to anybody, you know, and honestly, sometimes the gang stalkers, the impression that I had gotten from some of the gang stalkers that I had over the years before I knew that they were what gang stalking was, is that they didn't have a very favorable impression of my family. And they would give me really good information that was super helpful. It ended up being true. You know, like one guy had, I had been taken to Colorado Springs when I was in second or third grade. One of those times. And, what grade are you in when you're 8? I was 8 years old. And we went to Colorado Springs. And basically, they had run a terror campaign on my grandfather, who I'm going to assume now probably didn't want to participate in any of the shit that my grandmother was into. And they sent him off to San Bernardino. And he had worked for the same company forever. And they completely destroyed my grandfather. He was an alcoholic before that, but then he really became an alcoholic. And he never really recovered from it. And now that I understand and can see the intergenerational terror campaigns that were basically set up by these evil bitches to get their way, now I can see what happened to him. And at the time I was little, I didn't know. But I'm pretty sure that he wasn't down with this kind of stuff. And he basically kept to himself all the time, and he drank a lot. But I can't see him participating in this. And I might be wrong, because I caught everybody in my family participating. Like, everybody fucking knew that these bitches were basically loaning me out to anybody under mind control. Anybody who wanted me. Anybody. Could be a crackhead. Anybody. Gangbanger. Like meth addict. Anybody. Bikers. Dirty. Anybody. Anybody. The man with the homeless sign at Walgreens. Like, basically, if he could come up with the cash. Or I don't need... And that's the thing. Is I know that I was used for these things when I was young. But we were always broke. Now, you would think if you had a pretty teenage daughter who was getting passed around all the time, you would have some extra cash. We never had any money. So, was this for free? Was it just like a free thing? Like, just, you know, I mean, it didn't make sense. None of it makes sense. I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. My story goes back very, very long and very deep, and apparently my role in the rabbit hole of MK Ultra Monarch programming goes really, really deep. Yeah. And sometimes I cannot believe, like, I've gotten calls from people from all around the world who know who I am, and I don't know who they are. I had people on Facebook that were, Monarch Program survivors, pretty famous ones, know who I was, you know, and I didn't contact anybody, they would contact me, so it wasn't like I was out there, you know, I don't know. I had pretty affluent people call me. The Johnson & Johnson family called for readings. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I've had all kinds of people over the years that were just really affluent that would call, and they were very nice to me, and I don't know. So they seem to know more about me than I did. But basically, at this point, I'm completely isolated. Every time I go to sleep, they activate my programming through remote hypnosis. And we'll get into how I found all that out. Because I was still thinking it was an old school Manchurian Candidate kind of stuff, like where, you know, they call and they're like, the target is near the Walmart by the Orange Dragon, and then like you're like drop the phone, you're like, you know. No, it's not even like that anymore. From what I had learned is that I have the Project Pandora uh, inner cerebral implant, and it's remote hypnosis, and they can induce you anytime to come out of bed, wake up, do whatever, and then electronic dissolution of memory and go right back to bed. Yeah. And so it looks like I'm answering the door. It looks like I'm going and doing whatever. And yeah, it's pretty scary that these people, it's like real life Jessica Jones movie or on Netflix if you're into mind control. There's a show called Jessica Jones. It's a Netflix original, and it's about this girl who had a mind control handler that basically ran her whole life. And she had gotten away from him and was kind of living a normal life. And basically, whenever he's around, he just, you know, hypnotizes her all the time and has her kill people and, you know, prostitution, all kinds of stuff, which is basically the same thing that, you know, they're doing with me. So I'm trying to keep a good attitude. I got my 2 puppies here. They basically travel everywhere with me. And they've been shipped too. Yeah. This go around I learned about corrupt police, corrupt hospitals, how basically once they've put you on the list for extermination or reprogramming, that even when you go to the hospital, you won't get the right information. We'll go into that in another video. The police are involved, and basically once they've taken over all your phones and you call the police, you'll only get a syndicate police officer sent to your home. And even if you have police officers within your own family, 9 times out of 10, they're the ones that basically told, you know, people not to help you. So they put you in a lot of danger. It's amazing how it all works. Oh, and I learned about how hotels and motels are involved. How if you sell your home and you want to go to a hotel for a couple days and just, you know, make some phone calls to get, you know, new housing set up, or no, they'll actually the traffickers will follow you to the hotel and then also, you know, use your codes and stuff and have you raped while you're just trying to get away for a little bit. I was brutally raped on one occasion, where I had blood coming out of my ass basically when I woke up vomiting. My dogs were traumatized. I was sick. There were police officers. Come on, Spark, sit. This Spartak is. You see this little face? He was traumatized. There were police officers around, you know, my room all night, but they were not here to protect me, but they were here to protect the criminals that were, you know, planning on doing that to me. Yeah, so when it happened, I further traumatized. I was on the south side of Chicago at a local hotel after I had caught a family member, you know, drugging the chicken and letting people have their way with me. I just went to a hotel, and out of retaliation they had done that. So then I called the cab. Oh, the cab companies too also. Yeah, we had a bunch of new cab drivers from Wisconsin and Indiana that never knew their way around Chicago. And they had all started right around the time, about January or so of 2015. And they all knew my original programmer. We'll get into him later too. So basically, anywhere I went, I was bombarded. Completely bombarded. They had half of my mobile home park paid off. And the ones that didn't take the money, like, you know, got to come, you know, and then partake in whatever the nightly activities were. It was great. Great. So not only did they do that here and now, here where I'm at, it's I've woken up bruised with injection marks on my body. They have completely set up the hole in April. They put the entire remote neural monitoring had set within, you know, within my brain. They were basically, I know, and they did it to you too. They put a chip on his oblongata. This little guy is always really good, very sweet, and all of a sudden he started attacking his brother, and it would be out of the blue, and I would feel my implants, basically, you know, that hot feeling that you get when they start activating them, and at the very same time, he would also have that look in his eye, and then within like seconds, he would turn around and go after Manolo. And when I felt the heat in my face, and same thing happened, I knew we were getting hit and it was artificial. One day it was so bad that he actually bit me, and he's never bitten me or anybody else. Right here and there, he really took a chunk. And this was done back in, I don't know, early April. And yeah, bit me because he was going after to kill his brother, which he's never done. I know, honey. You're a good boy, though. You don't do that no more. You're a good boy. So, I don't know. So, I had worked with them when I realized it was artificially induced. And, you know, the three of us, I'm not really good on disciplining the puppies, but, you know, but they're loved. And we kind of solve things with love. You know, we give each other hugs and kisses. And, you know, so I would watch him fighting what was ever going on, and I would hold him when I saw him getting all crazy, and I would hug him, and I'd tell him I love him, and you don't do that, and he would breathe like he was fighting. He'd fight, and he'd give me a kiss. Or the other one would see him getting antsy and crazy, and he'd run up and start giving him kisses to distract him. I mean, it was so nuts. So, I don't know. Basically, this is just a plea for help. I need a safe place to go. And I know the internet is not the place to find it. Because every yokel's going to be like, yeah, my place is safe. And there's like a big-ass bounty on my head. And they're on the internet looking for new furniture. Or cars or gym shoes. Usually I tend to find the ones that sell me out are like into buying gym shoes and like, you know, renting cars so they could, you know, trick their wives, and I don't know, booze, methamphetamine, I don't know. So it's been Sparty. Alright, well, I'm gonna go. I'm sorry I'm rambling so much. Yeah, I'll get in more into detail about each scenario, and yeah, so alright, thank you guys.